welcome back. We're going to be talking about property law. Now, it's important to understand what the term means and why it's important. But property rights go back to Roman times, very critical for economic prosperity, individual liberty, and societal stability. Um, Securing a sphere of autonomy from government. While their history traces from ancient concepts, like I said, Rome, of ownership through English common law, the Magna Carta, which talks about it. Enlightenment ideals linking property to freedom by John Locke and our founders, to modern debates over regulation and universal access, evolving from feudal land grants to encompassing intellectual property, which is not tangible, and resource management. So let's distinguish between personal and real. Those are the two big categories. Personal is goods. You've studied goods, or you're aware of what goods are. When we study sales law, it deals with tangible goods, but personal property also includes intangibles like accounts receivables, things like that. Real property, the land, anything affixed to the land. It's important because it dictates how taxes are going to go, how you acquire and dispose of the property. What's noteworthy is that property can convert from real to personal, or personal real. And their example of this is called fixtures. Fixtures are goods you buy in a, let's say, a hardware store, like bathroom fixtures. That's a good. Then once it's affixed in such a way that removal would damage the real property, it becomes part of the real property. Likewise, real property could include timber. Once the timber is severed, it becomes personal property. So you can acquire ownership through a variety of ways. First of all, the concept that possession is 9/10 of the law is really not true. It depends on if the property is mislaid, lost, or abandoned. It's a matter of intent. If you simply mislay your coat or hat, you haven't given up ownership or title to the property, and whoever finds it has an obligation to hold on to it for you for a reasonable period of time. Lost property, similar. You didn't intentionally lose it. You lost it, but you still retain ownership. The finder can claim ownership over everyone else except the true owner. And there's certain laws that encourage people to turn that property over to the authorities and wait out a period of time before they can claim ownership. Abandoned property, as the term would suggest, is people just gave it up and don't really care. Production is where you added to the value of the property, like maybe put an engine in a car. Gifts are they're a way to acquire property. You have to have donative intent, delivery of the goods, and acceptance. A gift is not a contract, and you can reject gifts. Accession, similar to production, you add value. Confusion is where you have some good like oil or produce that can be commingled, and you would know your goods from the other goods, but normally there'd be a contract to sort that out. This is, you see, in the rural areas, grain silos. That's indicative of confusion of fungible goods. A little bit about the term bailments. It's an old concept. It's a transfer, not the sale, of personal property, to another party. You're the bailor, the other party's the bailee, with specific directions to either sell the property or whatever. The bet about insurance. You have to have an insurable interest, meaning that you have to have some skin in the game, some connection with whatever you're insuring, whether it's property or an individual. The contract's very important. to read that. It's written by lawyers, a lot of loopholes and conditions. For example, you've got to report a potential claim normally within a fairly short period of time. If your insurance company doesn't defend you or pay the claim, they can be charged with bad faith. So that's it. Let me talk a little bit about real property. Historically, that's the land, structures, airspace, subsurface, plants, fixtures, and it's been characterized as a bundle of rights where the owner of the land has the right to possess it, control it, exclude others, um, you know, that kind of thing. So it's each stick in this bundle of rights represents a distinct right to occupy, use, lease, sell, or give away the property, though these rights are limited by or preempted by laws like zoning laws and the potential government power like eminent domain, which is based on the U.S. Constitution, Fifth Amendment, where the government can take your property for a public purpose, provided they pay you just compensation. Generally, there are two types of real property interest: possessory, where you possess the property. One type of possessory interest is referred to as fee simple absolute. This is the highest form. Other types of possessory interest may involve like a partnership, co-tenants, or community property where you and your spouse own an equal one half of the property. Um, I'll talk a little bit about landlord-tenant. Tenant is entitled to quiet enjoyment of the property. Then there are non-possessory interests. These are things like easements, right-of-ways, where the utility company has a right to maintain the utility across your property, but that's it. They don't have a right, like the bundle of sticks here. Transfer of real property. This is a really good source here is the law shelf. I mentioned this to you before in my initial intro, but law shelf has some excellent videos on this. In fact, let me see here if I can find it. And yeah, let me see. Yeah, yeah. So let me slide over here. So shift here, but share a different screen. Yeah. So law shelf, extremely useful resource. You don't need to log in. It's for paralegals, but they talk about real property law, transfer, landlord tenant law, things like that, but super useful resource. So I'm going to go back to the screen. All right. So deeds, transfer and proof ownership. This shows the title. You can transfer by will or inheritance. I would say a couple of things about that. These are essentially gifts. If someone tells you that you're in their will to get a house or whatever, and it ends up they've changed their mind, you don't have any recompense or recourse. Adverse possession. This is an interesting topic where someone could be an individual, corporation, or even the government uses your property in an open way. There are four criteria. It's listed in your book, but if they use it for a statutory period of time, they can claim ownership of your property because you didn't kick them off. This is typical in boundary disputes. Eminent domain, I mentioned that before. A little bit about landlord tenant. This is primarily state law. And I will just say, if you look this up, this includes Residential Landlord Tenant Act. Landlords have a lot of duties, and tenants, they have a duty to pay the rent and not engage in what's called waste or destruction. But if you've ever rented, for example, You're supposed to do a walkthrough with your landlord on a checklist. Make sure you do that. Make sure you check everything to ensure it works, so you're not so your security deposit isn't going to be used to pay for something that pre-existed your time. I'm not going to cover a whole bunch about environmental protections, but just understand this is based on common law, trespass, and there are state and federal laws involved, specifically like Clean Water Act, stuff like that. A little bit about intellectual property. This is intangibles. These are patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. Patents, the way you protect it, you've got to register it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Typically, you're going to have an attorney to help you on that one. Trademarks, these are the brand symbol, like the Starbucks mermaid. More fanciful, the better. Protected by common law if you're the first to use the trademark. Government registration with the state. It could be the Secretary of State and or the federal government with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. Best to register with the federal government first. Copyright. These are creative works. They don't need to be used in trade or in commerce, where trademarks are marks used in commerce. But these are creative works, could be writing, sculpture, photographs. You don't have to, as long as you can establish you're the one that first created it, protected by common law, and it is possible to register with the Federal Copyright Office. Trade secrets are secret. Use in a trade, the common example would be a client lists. If you have work for somebody and they have a client list, that's a trade secret. Normally protected by contract. You probably would have a contract telling you about the trade secrets and that you can't use them. Violation would be a breach of contract and also a tort, possibly a violation of other laws, including criminal laws. All right. So as I said, there are statutory and common law remedies for, violation of intellectual property.